When it comes down to sparring, more often than not, I want the noob. I want the new guy who has no idea what they're doing. I want the guy who just walked into the gym today, who wants to beat everyone. And I want the arrogant gym dork who thinks that jiu-jitsu doesn't work because I'm 260, bro. No, this isn't cherry picking. In fact, it's a statistic that the less experience you have, the more likely you are to get injured or to cause another injury to someone else. So why am I saying that these types of people are your best sparring partners? Well, let's discuss, shall we? Now, to get started, I should ask a few questions about your martial arts training. Why did you start? Go on. Say it with me. Self-defense. To protect myself. If I got into a fight with someone, I would be able to defend myself. So surely, the best people to fight are the big bad hench dudes who want to prove something during their sparring match. Now, beginners, they don't know the moves. They don't know the techniques, nor have they been conditioned to the sparring etiquette. More than likely, they've watched UFC a few times and they've shadowboxed in front of a mirror thinking that that's adequate training. Forgetting, of course, that you and I, the students, have practiced those same techniques in the dojo thousands of times with somebody who's trying to take our heads off, isn't it? If you're a beginner though and you're watching this video, don't be too offended that I'm describing you because of how accurate that is. Do you know who else I'm describing? Me. A black belt. We all started somewhere and there's no shame in looking back and laughing. But do you know who else I am describing? 99% of the people who will approach you on the streets. Now, you're never 100% sure what a bad guy's intention is, nor do you know what their fighting experience is. But you can make an educated guess. If someone soberly says that they're gonna knock you out and break your fucking jaw, they won't. They won't. But if they try, you have a pretty good idea on how they're going to fight, because that's how 99% of the population is going to fight. Spazzy and flaily for about 30 to 50 seconds, and then they'll get tired and give up. This is assuming, of course, that you haven't used your techniques within that time, and then you put them away. This is, of course, assuming that there's no weapons and there's no friends involved, as I'm not qualified in the slightest to talk about that. The problem is it's a very scary 30 to 50 seconds, and just like all things, you're gonna have to train for it. That's where the noob comes in. You see, me and you, we know the rules of sparring. No elbows and knees, adjust intensity to your opponent, communicate injuries, and also tell the other person what you want out of the round, and then throw it all out of the window and just spar hard anyways. You and I, we get it. But a beginner doesn't, which means every single round, they're going to try and win, even if that means seriously injuring you, like breaking a bone or knocking you out. They don't know any better, and you should scold them if they're doing something that's really dangerous. Oh god, the amount of beginners that have tried to lift someone from the closed guard and proceed to almost slam them is scary. But if you know what you're doing, and you can afford to take the risk, then it's a great opportunity to test your skills against a 100% fully resisting untrained opponent who's trying to take you out of the earth. And hey, it's a really good experience for them as well, because they will get it into their thick skull that brute forcing and spazzing doesn't work in a real fight. Except for when it does. What I'm not suggesting, however, is that you only spar people who can't fight. That's just plain bullying. You still need to spar people around your skill level if you want to improve. People make mistakes, this is obvious, and only a skilled practitioner can point out those mistakes and capitalize on them. Additionally, you can learn defenses for techniques that you already use, and then you can learn to work around it. Seriously, if you want to get humbled, spar a purple belt. They will let you know very quickly that you know nothing about the sport. Which brings me on to my next point. Now wait a minute, I'm a beginner who only has about 4 months of training. I don't really know what I'm doing. How does a beginner help me when I'm sparring? That's fine, because what happens when you spar someone who has, let's say, a year of training? Exactly, you can't do anything. You move, they do 3 transitions, and then you're getting armbarred, you're getting clipped, and you're asking how did you do that? So if you're sparring someone who's worse than you, yes, those people exist. Have confidence in yourself, your training is working. If you're sparring someone who's worse than you, now it's your turn to get some attacks off. Because you're facing a fully resisting opponent who doesn't really know how to defend their technique so they can actually work. Although it may encourage you to fall back into some bad habits because you can get away with it now, no situation is perfect. Another reason why people who can't fight are your best sparring partners is ego. Not only are you taking a physical risk when you're engaging with a spazzy beginner, but mentally you are taking a risk as well. Think about it. There is a possibility that during this round you could lose. Even if you won't lose, because that's a bit unlikely, chances are you might need to work a little harder than you anticipate. If none of what I just said happened, great! But if it did happen, then it might trigger a coping mechanism. My go-to is,
well, he's a beginner, so I'm letting him work a little bit, I'm not working too hard.
And although that's a very valid cope, have some humility and realise that if this were outside, things might have gotten a little bit serious. It's that realisation that you have a lot more to learn as a martial artist, and you're being taught that by someone who is objectively less skilled than you. So to conclude, beginners are your best sparring partners. That's not to say that they will improve your skill as much as someone who is on your level, but here's the thing, when you're sparring against someone who's in the gym, they already know the sparring etiquette, so they won't go all out, whereas a beginner has everything to prove, and so they will. This is more likely to help you, as most people who start trouble are going to be as skilled and as spazzy as that beginner, which means you can practice both physically and mentally how to defend against somebody who's going all out for the kill. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.